Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone beyond and in between, welcome back to Larps and Tarps. This week, we're talking about well-being at LARP. I'm joined with my co-host, Kerry.
Hello.
And today we are joined by our special guest, Emma.
Hello.
Who plays Esty Alina Sparn.
Yes. Correct.
Got the surname.
Have you got my surname?
Oh. No.
Lupita Ivaldez Iroquesa.
I did know that. As soon as you said Lupita, I went, Ivaldez. I really know this. It's fine. I know my.
What's my new name?
That's rude. Don't ask me to do that.
I was thinking that. I was like, I don't know her new name.
What is your new name again?
Highland.
Hi. What's your name though?
Highland Sunkenhalf.
Highland Sunkenhalf. I should be able to remember your surname because
it's the same as Gwyn's.
It's the same as Gwyn's.
It's your
that's nice.
It's your
Stedding
name.
Are they? Yeah, it's a Stedding, isn't it? You guys.
Yeah.
Not Striding.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Which is things that I definitely know the difference between. Yeah. Well, actually, I do. Stride is moving,
Striding's like traveling. Yeah.
and Stedding is not.
Yeah, we live in the swamp.
It's being steady. Steady.
Steady.
We're going steady at the swamp.
We're going steady.
Oh, that sounds a bit.
Me and my childhood,
Maybe not what you
me and my
thought you
childhood
meant to
best
say.
friend are going steady. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that is a bit cringe.
Yeah, cool. Can't wait for the icy marriage.
Cute.
Anyway, that looks so disgusted. Bloody hell. Sorry, Jack. Yeah, I think you're quite a catch.
You didn't have to point out the disgust. We're not recording in front of cameras, you know that. Anyway, we've gotten very off topic.
Yeah, no, sorry. Just tried to make your mental health worse. No, we're
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, no worries. So we're talking about mental health, kind of well-being at LARP, because I think it definitely seems to me that LARP attracts a lot of people who do kind of have problems with their like mental health and stuff, but also like it can be an incredibly overwhelming experience for even the most neurotypical of normies like me. So like I think it's really
You're
important.
neurotypical, are you?
Yeah, you'd think so.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a surprise. Isn't
Oh,
it?
okay, yeah. That's something I never knew about you.
Shocking.
That's
I know.
so rude.
Yeah.
Why are you being so sarcastic? Why do I feel offended that you're calling me neurotypical?
Sorry. I'll shut up now.
Then you've got to talk for the rest of the podcast. So I don't know where the best place to start is really. Do we want to talk about your guys' experiences at LARP and how you've got on with it, or?
I mean, I could maybe start with how I kind of prepared.
Yeah, like
Before
mentally
I went.
prepared. Or...
Yeah, go for it.
Well, just like kind of like practically, really.
Mm.
So I think, if you're looking to go to an Empire event, for example, I can't speak on behalf of other LARPs because
I think
Empire's the only one I've done.
I think a big focus of today's, honestly, most of the advice that I've gotten is about Empire.
Because it is quite an overwhelming...
It's a fest LARP. It's huge.
It's enormous. So
obviously
it's a
some
bit
of the small
different.
LARPs.
I mean, I
this
can
advice
imagine
will-
ILARP would be really overwhelming as well.
Yeah, I think it would present different problems from what I've heard
exactly.
about
Like smaller
your
groups, but more
experiences.
intense experience.
Yeah,
at
100%.
ILARP.
Yeah, exactly.
But to prepare for Empire.
Yes. So to prepare, I kind of looked at what everyone else was bringing, and from personal experience, stuff like making sure you've got plenty of food.
Socks.
When you're there, socks is
I
apparently
have never
very
used more than the
important.
normal amount of socks at Empire.
Yeah,
Same,
no,
but that's
it's-
because we've had good weather.
Yeah, I
last
suppose
year.
you're right, actually.
Yeah, but
were
they always
lucky.
say that.
Everyone's always
don't
like,
they?
bring a million socks. I was bringing
You'd
a million
rather
socks.
have a million socks and not need a million socks than bring four
I
pairs
hope-
of socks.
I open my bloody
Yeah.
LARP chest and socks fly out. It's ridiculous.
They're the ultimate treasure.
Yeah, true.
And like we were saying, weren't we, about when you get there, there's like a Sainsbury's that's only like 10 minutes away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this all kind of comes under the umbrella of like if your kind of physical wellness is as best as it can be, right? And you're prepped for like practical stuff that's going to make your time easier, right?
Because you're not really one for camping, are you, Emma?
No.
No. So you really had to think about that.
So I suppose like personally, I have anxiety. I'm on medication that means that my body temperature isn't regulated very well. So I can go from being extremely hot, extremely cold. I don't sleep very well. I'm sensitive to sound. So I kind of had to factor all of these things in when I was getting prepared for LARP. So bringing stuff like earplugs. I mean, if you're sensitive to light, an eye mask would be really good.
Yeah. I mean, that's always good for camping anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Particularly if you're used to like blackout blinds and stuff.
Especially if you're
like,
staying up late drinking, then you're going to want to sleep in the morning.
yeah,
a little
exactly. Bit. Yeah. So, and then just making sure you have like sensible gear to bring with you. So, for example, with E1 that I went to last year, it was the end of April, and it was so windy, and if I go out in the wind for too long, I basically end up with a massive headache because my ears get so cold. So I literally just spent the whole weekend with earmuffs on. And like
very winter mark earmuffs.
Yeah, they were very winter mark earmuffs.
Yeah, I made sure that I had a really thick sleeping bag because and I always get cold camping. I remember one time going camping years ago and literally feeling like this is it. This is how I die because I was that cold.
Yeah.
Christ.
I mean,
that was in August. So going camping in April, I was like,
yeah. I mean, we did like when we got our stuff together. It was very much like. So again, Emma's not a massive camping person, and this was when we were first going out. I was like, I want to make sure Emma doesn't have the shittest weekend of her life. So I was like, we brought so like a big thick camp bed that we got from Booty Camping, followed by a duvet, followed by us, followed by another duvet, followed by there's also a mattress protector, followed by 3 blankets and an actual pillow. So our car was like 90% bedding.
Yeah, I mean, if that isn't practical for you, I mean, it was a struggle in Morgan's Fiat 500.
It's amazing,
especially because you had to carry half of our stuff because we got the train.
Yeah,
exactly. It might just be worth getting a hotel.
Or definitely
if
just rent a van.
you're really worried about camping.
But also, I mean, you can get really
that.
good sleeping bags.
Yeah.
Like I was camping.
I hate sleeping bags because I cannot move in them.
That's true.
That's fair.
But
I find it
like
less
that.
important for me to move around when I'm camping because I will get cold if I come
I think
out.
I just get a bit claustrophobic.
Well, what I did because I had my old cheap sleeping bag that was definitely not warm enough. But because I like to block out the light and everything, and my face gets cold when I'm camping, so basically I have my legs in the warm sleeping bag, then I've got the top layer over my head and over my upper body of the other sleeping bag, and then now I can move around a lot more. And
a good strategy.
all the light and cold air is blocked off my face.
It's pretty good.
I mean, when I went to Flying Lead Nightmare, that was camping in November.
Yeah, that sounds ridiculous.
But I had like a proper. It was horrible getting into my sleeping bag, but it was like a proper 3-season sleeping bag, and then the second I was in it, fine.
But yeah, that's the thing. My sleeping bag, it's like being wrapped in a duvet.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Quite good. And it wasn't that expensive. Got it from Argos.
Yeah, no, they're decent. But yeah, so I guess
definitely
to track
invest in
back,
some good kit.
having taking care of the essentials, keeping warm.
Yeah, I think
huge.
like keeping
thermals.
warm or keeping cool if the weather is the other
good
way around.
temperature, lots of water, lots of food. Right,
Yeah.
There's your base
Sunscreen
kind
when
of
it's
level.
hot. Even sunscreen when it's not hot because Gwyn got really bad
burned.
sunburn
It's 'cause it
because
was
he's
windy?
bald and it was windy and it was cold. But because he was bald and the sun was right on his head all weekend, his head swelled up about 3 times the
that was
size,
awful,
like a red
bless him.
megamind.
Fuck's sake.
I felt so sorry for him.
I know.
You know when you're
bless
like,
him.
I feel like I should have done something to prevent
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
it was really funny,
But
wasn't
that's
it?
why in
Yeah.
E3, I was walking around without sun cream and you were like, not even feeding yourself and drinking water enough. But you saw me without sun cream. You're like, nope, come here. You're getting some sun
You said you
cream.
got sun cream. I said, no, I'll be fine. She said, get to my tent.
Come here
Get
now.
in here now.
Get in here.
All
take
right.
this sun cream.
I was just trying to pull off some
I'm not
potions,
asking
but
you, I'm
fine.
telling you.
Yeah, this is I see Tristan and OC Morgan get this bloody sun cream on you.
Yes, mum. Right.
Yeah. But yeah, because we also, so again, I mean, a lot of the practicalities for us, we rent a van when we go down. But we have been using we get these 10-litre boxes of water, which we found stay
they're
massively
Yeah, I need
cool.
to get that next time.
They stay really cool.
Honestly,
surprisingly
because I think you can say all you want. You need to drink more. You need to drink more water until you're blue in the face. But
lukewarm standpipes don't quite
exactly the water isn't brilliant.
Like the water's like drinkable. It's absolutely fine.
Oh yeah, it's
But
drinkable and it's clean and hygienic. It personally,
But it's also you've got to
taste
stand
very nice,
but
which
sometimes
puts you off drinking as much of it.
Yeah.
So if you can have a box of water, then it is
also
a bit
it
nicer.
prevents you from having to stand in a muddy puddle
Yeah.
to refill
exactly,
your tankard
exactly,
every time.
Yeah, but they did keep really cool actually. Like it was, obviously tents get hot when it's midsummer, and our water didn't.
I was
so-
surprised because you gave me some on one of the mornings.
Yeah.
And you're like, why is this? My tent is sweltering, but my water is cool.
I was like, hang on,
It's a miracle.
Is it like lined with like tinfoil or
No,
something?
it's just a cardboard box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
weird.
really weird, but works
yeah,
really well.
And also keep snacks on you if you can.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I was gonna
Pouches and
say.
bags and pockets full
like
of snacks.
stuff like
Don't do what I do.
high calorie, like cereal bars.
Nuts if you're not allergic.
Yeah,
of course.
nuts. Stuff like easy peelers are really good because they
Oh,
don't
yeah.
bruise. Don't bring bananas. That's really not a
No,
good
they
idea.
go
as much as I
immediately
love
brown.
a banana. Yeah,
Like,
they'll
you,
just get
like they
squished.
might last on your first date. You might be able to have it on your first evening when you've just set up your stuff. But if you leave it in the tent like one day,
yeah,
not even
they're
that,
just gonna
they
go
would just go brown.
and sad. But I would also say, don't worry if you are like if you feel like you're constantly eating and you're constantly hungry.
Yeah.
Don't ignore that feeling because you are doing a lot.
Yeah.
Like you won't realize it, but you're doing a lot of walking. You're doing a lot of like kind of high level intensity stuff, whether it's mentally or physically.
I mean, even when you sat down, you're not like sat down on a couch, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And you know, you're socializing and you know, you got to keep your kind of sugar levels up
And at the end of the day, it's holiday for most
exactly.
people, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
you know, you can let yourself off a little bit more.
Yeah,
surely.
yeah, because sometimes I'm like, God, why am I so hungry? And like, I need to stop eating so much. But really,
But you're outside.
God,
Yeah,
yeah, you're walking
all
all
day.
day.
Yeah,
Yeah, literally.
Yeah,
It's probably the most
definitely.
exercise I do in a concentrated amount of time, like continuously. But I don't wear like my fitness tracker or anything.
And
So like, I've
yeah.
no
Particularly
idea
you're
what I'm
doing
doing.
combat as well.
God,
That's
yeah.
really intense. I'd be if I was doing
That's what I was
combat, I'd be
thinking.
bringing like a cereal bar with me on the field, and I'd just be like, just pause a second, I just need to have a bit of
Hang
cereal
on,
bar.
hang
Time out.
Sorry. Okay, I'm down. Hang on, wait a minute.
like waving a white
I'm
flag.
down.
just
But,
eat my bar.
a friend of mine commented on our post that we put up on the Empire group. Well, also, thanks for all the response to that. It was
Oh,
really
yeah.
useful. But a friend of mine put some good advice was to bring stuff to be able to cook for yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really, really would like to do that.
I mean,
actually.
I did that at E2, and whilst the food was amazing, then looking at the fact I had washing up to do
Yeah.
sucked. So I just didn't do it and took home dirty pans. But he was like waking up and having like a bacon sandwich, like a nice warm food that you like not having
Yeah,
to
and
queue,
not having
not
to,
having
like,
to
yeah.
pay. Because again, the food situation is all right. But
Oh, it's pretty good. I mean,
yeah.
even because
Yeah,
I'm
I
vegan,
say it's all right. It's really
and
good.
I can
Yeah.
quite easily find something
Mm.
good there. Like, it's delicious, the food. It's just again the queue sometimes, as you say.
I mean, like cooking for yourself doesn't have to be like, oh, you know, I've got to bring this and that, and I've got to get a refrigerator for it. You
Yeah.
can literally bring
Well,
like pots of porridge that you just need hot water for.
Yeah, that's what we do.
And they're
Well-
really good for you, really warming. And obviously, like you say, you don't have to queue if you just bring it yourself.
The issue is these pots of porridge usually have milk in them, so I can't have them. But
Oh,
that's
yeah.
fine because I can have pot noodles.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's my standard thing. If I'm camping, I'll have a pot noodle for breakfast
Yeah.
every morning because it's cold in the morning and you want something nice and hot. And,
And it's easy to
part
make.
meal, part drink, really,
Yeah.
isn't it? If
But
you
look-
put enough water in.
I did it. We laugh about this when we were flying lead. I was having period appropriate canned noodles
Yeah.
because I'd make them, shove them in an icy bowl, and then I could take them to like the
Period appropriate canned
I love
noodles.
that.
I could take them to the saloon and eat them there because it's like, well, it's all fine. It's like just the preparation.
Yeah,
behind the
exactly.
tent.
Like it's nice to have
Yeah.
like an in-character bowl that you can
Yeah.
eat out of if you do want to like come away from your tent.
Yeah, and if anyone's worried about like, I'm sorry, I keep talking about cereal bars, but if anyone's like eating like a packet of crisps or cereal bars, like in the in character bit, don't worry about it. Like
Yeah.
people aren't going to be like, oh God, like I've just broke immersion because I've seen a packet of Walkers.
Yeah,
Like no
it's
one's
not-
gonna.
People are walking around with
care.
tinfoil wrapped burritos. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's not.
like-
yeah,
don't worry
exactly.
about
like
that.
Food, water, because like they were saying, if you can't get like a a LARP appropriate drinking vessel, having a water bottle,
Yeah,
it's more
it's-
important to stay hydrated.
Like
Yeah,
a plain
it's
plastic
definitely
bottle.
more
Yeah,
important
exactly.
to be well.
And like I'd say the same about medication because you were talking about your medication.
Yeah.
Mine is very much in the moment. If I feel overwhelmed, I take one because I'm
Yes.
on a beta blocker.
I used to have
And
those.
I would not feel any shame whipping that out if I really
Oh, God,
needed
yeah.
it.
No,
Though
100%.
that being said, I don't think I've ever needed one at LARP.
Oh,
'Cause
that
it's-
is really
Yeah,
good.
because it is, it's outside. So even though there is a lot of people and a lot of noise, because you're not inside, that sound isn't trapped.
Yes.
I don't know if I've mentioned before on a podcast that I work in a nursery. The difference between 20 children inside and 20 children outside is massive in terms of volume.
I think I'd just be a nervous wreck throughout.
Oh, yeah, well, that's
I
why
am
I've got
not
the
built for a
panel on, isn't
nursery.
it?
So in terms of I guess that's all kind of like practical stuff, like food, drink, and stuff like that. But in terms of like, it's probably good to discuss like actual experiences with like mental health and stuff like that at LARP. So do you want to kind of talk about that maybe?
So for me personally, I find Friday night Empire really difficult. Just because it's almost like everyone's kind of running off to do something. And I've suddenly just a bit like, I don't know what to do with myself.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is, but it feels like I think it's because it feels like a very swift transition. Whereas like if you wake up and like ease yourself into it in a morning.
It's more in character-ish, like up to 10 o'clock on a morning.
Yeah.
Whereas Friday night seems very much like, because
One minute
everyone's
you're in
got
it, the
their
next minute you're out of
nation
it.
meetings, which I find incredibly awkward because I'm
I
always
don't
there
like
on my own. I don't know anyone.
I think I've flopped on this. I've said 2 different things about nation meetings. I think at first I was like, I wish Dawn had one, and then experiencing talking to the people, and then there's a conversation because someone's trying to get one going at Dawn, and then lots of people being like, I wouldn't bother. And the more I look at it, the more I'm like, because you look at them from the outsider's perspective, you're like, oh God, I wish I was there. That feels like a really easy way to role play.
At the end of the day, it's the easiest first step for you to, like, it's the first thing for you to do when you're new to LARP, you don't know where you're going or what you're doing, you've got no one to talk to. And it's, it's a good way to meet people in your nation.
Yeah.
It's just, it can be very boring and you might not be able to hear what everyone's saying.
Which I don't think, especially if you're feeling like worried about it,
Yeah.
doesn't help.
It is being stood in a crowd as well.
Exactly. So I found it hard because it was really loud, but then at the same time, I couldn't hear what anyone was saying.
Yeah, it's really hard to focus.
Yeah, and it was all notices, but I had no idea what
it all meant.
they were talking about.
Yeah, it's like I need werewood and
Yeah, but also just like a lot of like really passionate political speaking, and I was like, this
and you're
is
not
too
like,
much for just like
you've not zoned in on the
being
role
for 5
play yet.
minutes.
Exactly.
And then also like everyone's kind of stood in groups, and I'm just stood on my own. And also I found like I felt a bit kind of invisible because people just kept standing in front of me or like stepping on me, and
bless you.
It was all just a bit like
a massive nation as well.
Yeah,
so, because the Brass Coast where I was, that was much smaller meetings, I imagine.
Yeah, it was huge, but I kind of thought it'd be a bit more kind of like an introduction to like the community of Wintermark, but it was just notices, and it felt very much like if you're a kind of seasoned LARPer or seasoned Wintermarker, it would be really good, but it was a bit much for me.
So my strategy going to those kinds of meetings was to look for the people who look as lost as I feel and introduce myself. So I met a lot of people who it was their first time at LARP, but it's really hard to like get yourself into groups that are already established.
I think with Wintermark, people very much come in packs.
Yeah.
Like they come in a hall.
Yeah.
So
but it is very much a group game. I can have, we've spoke about it somewhere. It's like, I feel like, from my experience at least, Dawn is one of the easiest ones to. There's literally an in-game mechanism for joining a house.
Yeah.
Whereas it doesn't
that's
really
part of the role play.
Yeah. Whereas it doesn't really feel like that exists in a lot of the places.
Yeah. The thing I struggled with was the Brass Coast was that I didn't want to join someone's house, like someone's family, before meeting them.
It always sounds so personal as well, like someone's family as well.
Yeah.
So I had to make up my own family name, which meant that I wasn't part of anyone's family. So
Yeah.
where do I go and sit, and who do I go and talk to?
Yeah.
I'm on my own basically, and as much as there is the in-game mechanic of if you're in the Brass Coast, or even if you're not a member of the Brass Coast, you can go sit by the fire, pay however much, or offer to pay to sit by the fire, but it's just so hard. Like, it's really easy to go up to someone who is on their own and looks lost and looks like they don't know anyone.
Yeah.
It's really hard to go up to a group who are all in conversation, because I did get into one of those conversations, but then it just felt like I was an observer. It felt like I was being rude and watching people having a little social hangout.
I've definitely, because I've been in that, like, once, you can be in like a situation where you're like, oh, I'll sit with these guys, and you're sitting with friends initially, and your friends leave, and then you're like, I don't know anyone here. And then you're like, if I leave, I don't know if to say goodbye. I don't know. But and I think...
You're like, am I outstaying my welcome?
Like,
Does anyone want me
Is it rude for me to leave? Would anyone notice if I leave? Am I being rude by staying?
Yeah. But I suppose you've got to think of it from the other perspective, is that if someone came and sat with you, you would never think that.
No, you'd never mind. Yeah, exactly.
So, like,
but it's just so much easier to be on the other side of that perspective, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, like in practice, it's completely understandable for people to be like, does anyone want me here?
Yeah, well, I would like to take this opportunity to encourage any groups, if there is someone who is alone and scared and they're sat near you, try and make sure you're asking them the odd question and bringing them in. I mean, I'm sure people do anyway.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, trying to encourage, because I think as well, there's a lot of people, because I know I've been in situations where it's like you're in a group and there's someone you don't know there.
Yeah, well, that's how we met Gwyn, because we were all camping together and we brought him in.
Exactly, but sometimes I'm like, I feel too awkward to talk to this person, and it's the same, because he's like, they're like, I feel too, and you're in this weird kind of situation.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think the thing is, right, Empire, we were told this before we even came, Empire's a group game. Going as a solo player is it's tricky.
It's tough.
Yeah, you've
It
got
is
to break
tricky.
that ice with a lot of people.
Yeah, and it's a hard kind of thing to overcome and to deal with. I think obviously you've stuck with Wintermark and you've been like, I'm going to try and stick it out.
I really
Yeah.
admire that because like I went into the Brass Coast thinking I love Navarre and I love the Brass Coast, and obviously Chloe and Alex, our friends, have gone for Navarre. And I was that
losing
close
you
to
all.
joining them, but then I thought, you know what, I slightly like the Brass Coast aesthetic more, and I want to challenge myself
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
go to like a different place. So I think it's definitely worth challenging yourself, and I don't regret going Brass Coast. It's just that I still found that I spent most of my time in Navarre, and all the friends that I made, most of them were Navarre.
Yeah, because you were working at a Navarre pub.
Well, yeah, not even just then. I mean,
Yeah.
Navarre's a bigger nation, so
Yeah.
a lot of the people I bumped into, you know, they were Navarre.
Where I
So-
spent, I think E1, I managed to find groups of people, but they very much I felt like at E1, I was like, I'm a little bit on the fringe a little bit. I know a few
Yeah.
people, but by E2, I was like, because I was complete by myself at E2.
Yeah.
I was like, right, I know a few things to kind of build on that, and I feel like now I'm at this point where I'm in a good position.
See, I feel like I hit that point at E4 because I didn't go to E2. E3, I was still finding my footing, and I think depending on your confidence, your anxieties, whatever, you know, it can take you a little bit longer to find that you feel settled.
Yeah, I've kind of stuck with Wintermark just because I still feel like I think a lot of people say this is that your first character that you create for LARP is very much like you,
Yeah.
basically.
Oh, it's just you in a costume, like,
yeah,
in terms of role play.
because it's like, you know, a first step, isn't it? And I still feel like Wintermark is still very me.
Yeah.
And I've just accepted that it's just going to take time, and also that if I don't ever get involved with them, then that's also fine.
at least
'cause
the
I'm just
thing
happy
is-
with what I'm doing at the moment.
The thing is with Wintermark, at least you sort of blend in a bit better. As a freeborn walking through Navarre camp constantly,
Yeah.
I did feel like I stuck out like a sore thumb. I mean, I know people weren't looking at me like, "Why are you here?" But that's how I felt.
I think it was
Yeah.
E2 or E3. I think it was E3. I had some business in Navarre, and
yeah.
I went over with brother standing, and I was wearing my chainmail. I had my blue and white thing, my red roses in my
Very
hair.
Dornish.
The most Dornish I've like it was my Dornishest stuff, and I'm literally standing there in a field of green. The amount of looks I got, everyone was like, "Are you sure you're like?" I was like, I feel like everyone's staring at the Dornishman in the corner.
I
It's
mean,
kind of like
if
everyone's.
you were
Yeah.
in Marcher territory, they definitely would be.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I love the march as well.
I also love the
Yeah,
marches,
they're
but I
really
also think it's
nice.
really funny because we'd have Tristan and Esty would be having the conversation. I think marches are lovely. I'm like, yeah, they have been lovely. And then the second one of them realised I was Dornish.
Yeah.
their kind of attitude
Attitude
went boom.
completely changed.
And I was like, you see, they're nice until they know who you are. Very judgmental.
Yeah, I do think like it's really interesting because when you think about it, and it is a very marchery thing, like they kind of take like a polite interest in you, so like they'll be really helpful. But I think also maybe part of it is a bit like just trying to suss you out. Like,
Yeah.
should I be suspicious of these people in my camp?
Yeah.
And I think that's quite cool.
Yeah, I suppose that makes sense. Like, 'cause
Yeah.
no one's gonna let you know more about them if you know
Yeah,
come at
just-
them like, who are you? What are you
Yeah,
doing here?
yeah,
You know?
exactly.
I just want to bring it back to we talk about Friday being overwhelming and stuff,
Yeah.
and everyone's setting off. There is someone who kind of mentioned on one of our posts a similar thing to what you said, and there is a tendency to feel like you have to take every opportunity, and I feel like that kind of plays into that. It's like everyone's going and doing stuff, and you're like,
Yeah.
why am
Yeah.
I not? And I feel like it's it's a massive game. You can do your own stuff, and I feel like it's realizing a lot of that pressure is self-imposed,
yeah.
and being like there actually isn't any pressure.
yeah,
You
exactly.
can you're on Friday. You're like, right, I'm off to the pub.
See,
That's how I'm gonna-
conversely, I find I don't know if it's because the podcast. I feel like I need to have something to talk about.
Yeah.
So I feel like I need to go and at least have a couple of stories from the weekend. But I also feel like if you find people who are able to help you with the plot, like the owner of the Boar's Head helped me out, and he, you know, had some ideas for me, and he was like, "What do you want to do? Do you want to help out with songs and stories?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to do any work with the academy?" Because he knows that I work with kids in my own time, and he's, you know, gone above and beyond trying to help me find some plot and help me find something to do. And I've just looked at him nervously, like, do I have to?
Yeah, yeah.
But I think the other thing is it's like because I know that when we first got the release, it was Tom's second event, and Tom was kind of being like, "Oh, I want to go find plot and this and that, the other." I feel that puts a bit. I'm not obviously Tom was doing his own game, but I
Yeah.
think you see that and you go, "Should
Well,
I be doing that?"
Got to go running around to find plot. That's not my kind of game.
But that's just not
Yeah, no,
necessarily.
exactly. We're very much tea house in the daytime, tavern at night
Yeah,
kind of people,
exactly.
aren't we?
But also, I think there's a difference between finding plot and finding game, and I think game
Yeah.
can be self-generated. Like me
Yeah.
and Tom have made our own game between our characters because we've
Yeah.
got a little past. I've again, all the little that's what LARP's about, especially like a fest LARP, is the little stories you tell between yourselves, and little bits will drop in from the wider world. Like I've become aware of a few things and stuff happens and comes by you, and you're like, holy shit, there's actually a lot going on.
Yeah.
But then you can just bumble along and have a wonderful time, go on a drinking. Because even like if you went on the in character bar crawl, that's a story to tell. That's something.
Well,
Yeah,
exactly. And you'll
It's
end
great
up
fun.
meeting people, and people travel around to different taverns with little gambling games or with stories. Or like there was someone who was traveling around on one of the nights who was like, "What's your name? I'm going to write you a love song." Like I think it was
Wow.
well, not to me.
what I
If
thought. I was
only.
like,
Yeah. No, it was the what's the Brass Coast Festival where they wear the white sashes,
Oh, bloody hell.
the Broken Wheel.
Broken
Yeah.
wheel.
Yeah, so he was being very funny and silly and whatever. And I think if you find a place where you can feel a little bit more at home, or a group like I've settled in with the Boar's Head, and I plan on spending a lot more time there in the future as well. But story sometimes comes to you, or like the other people who are associated with that group will have story, like Man of the Orc, who works there. So there you go. The plot came right to me, really.
Yeah,
so you've just got to find your little.
I think that's it. Just realizing that, have you got, a common thing a terminology which you probably explain is a lot of people will say something about having spoons.
Yes.
And that's kind of like a subtle way of saying if you've run out of spoons, you're not doing great mentally and you need,
Yeah,
you need
you're
a
like
break
mentally,
kind of
emotionally
thing.
exhausted,
Yeah,
sort of
exactly.
thing.
Just probably something to point out.
Yeah, so for example, if you feel like you need a rest, you might say, I've run out of spoons.
Yeah. Like one of the ways
Or
I've
I'm
heard
out
it,
of spoons.
described is that like someone with depression will need a hell of a lot more spoons to get out of bed in the morning, never mind do everything else. And you've got a certain
Yeah.
amount of spoons for like one day, for example. Or you need to like rest to recuperate the spoons.
But I think there's a few
Just the
places.
spoons. I just got images now of like
Oh.
spoons tucked in bed.
Now we just need to go to spoons, don't we?
But there's a few kind of. So I was speaking to someone in Dawn who has they call it the triage tent, and I'm pretty sure there's other things in other parts of Empire that do this, but this one specifically is a IC healer's tent. So if you need healing, you can go for the IC healing. But they also do kind of OC health stuff. So there's 2 chairs with like backs. So if you've got accessibility issues, you need a backrest, you can go take a seat in there.
That is amazing.
Damn,
You're
I think
gonna
I
have
need to go
show
there
me
at some
that.
point. I
There's,
get a backache.
Period supplies, water, painkillers, allergy tablets, plasters, protein bars in the basket by the door, sunblock, hand sanitizer.
That's brilliant. So
That's
what is the
fantastic.
tent called?
It's called the triage tent.
the triage.
Okay,
tent.
so if you
Okay.
asked around in Dawn,
Someone should be able to point you out to it.
Yeah.
And the person who runs it isn't usually there. It's just kind of set aside people to use it. The idea is just to treat you with respect, take stuff that you need. And if you need
brilliant.
but it's also a space where you can just sit, recharge, and take a break. And there are other spaces that kind of do that. I'm not aware of all of them. I was speaking to someone, apparently there's a group in Urizen who gave someone who was having a bit of a problem speaking because they were getting a bit overwhelmed. They gave them like a sign being like, I'm not able to kind of talk right now. So there's like loads of supportive groups. I'm sure if you ask around on the Facebooks or with people you know from those nations, they'll be able to inform you, there's this support you can get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone mentioned, didn't they, about Moorish being
Yes.
a space.
A safe space.
I think
You can ask for
sort
Steve.
sort of ranging from just having a rest to if you feel like you need medical attention. Kerry says, you can ask for Steve.
And they take you to an out of character sort of calm down.
Yeah, and I think they might have, because they have like a kind of medical person on site, don't they?
Yeah,
so I think
first aiders.
they would contact that
They usually
first
have water
aider.
there as well that you can have. and
Yeah,
stuff.
there's water
Yeah.
at Moorish. But yeah, so there's a bunch of stuff like put in place to help people with that because again we can't get away with the fact it's incredibly overwhelming.
Well, yeah, you're outside
very
in
intense.
social all day. Like literally from the moment you wake up, there's thousands of people around. I mean, not literally gathered outside your tent unless your boyfriend is the owner of the jackdaws.
But I think
But no offense, jackdaws, love you all.
I think the thing is, even though it is very intensive, like you can take yourself away. Like I found that if I was finding things too much, I would just go sit in my tent and look at my phone, just do something that you
sometimes
would
you
normally
need
do
that.
at home, like read a book. Like if you need to be
Exactly.
like, out of character for a little bit, just hide in your tent for a
I
bit.
think sometimes you need that when you're so used to having like technology around you all day, being in the
Yeah.
field and around people. Sometimes you do just need to like look at your phone because it's so like almost mind numbing. If that's
Yeah.
like
It
would
it's
ground you a
soothing,
little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, it
exactly. But I will say it's also really nice to be away from it all because like the things that you're
Yes.
stressed about in your real life. Like I was really struggling with learning to drive. And I was having trouble on my lessons because of my anxiety and my lack of confidence. And I found that the sessions, the driving lessons I had after a LARP, I was always noticeably more confident. Like my driving instructor was like, you can tell you need to put your test after a LARP. And unfortunately, my test did fall the week after a LARP and I passed it.
Yeah.
Because I did drive,
That
a
is
bit
brilliant.
more. Yeah. And I wasn't stressing about it all weekend, which I would have been if I was at home.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
it really just takes you away
really
from
good
it all.
distraction. Yeah. It is like, as much as, I find Friday nights really difficult, I think
Yeah.
after being at LARP,
Like, to be fair, you could just
It
stay in
is-
your tent a little bit longer and
well, yeah,
not
this
go
is
to
it.
the
I
meetings
think
and stuff.
like Morgan being quite a neurotypical person doesn't always get it. So sometimes he'll come in
Yeah.
and be like, "Are you still in the
Well,
tent?
it's all right,
Like,
'cause
are you not
I
going to go?"
wasn't like that.
No, sometimes you're a bit like, "You're not going to go out and do anything."
But
and I'm
my-
a bit
I was
like,
just checking in
I'd
on
be
you,
like,
I
"No, I'm
suppose.
quite,
I was,
I'm quite happy
Yeah.
From
here."
a perspective of my defense, it's usually like, "Are you okay?" Like it's not like, "What are you
Yeah.
doing in here?" I'm like, "Are you?"
I think
Are you
I've
alright?
been like, "Oh, can we like sit in the tent for a bit?" And you're like, "Well, I don't want to. I've got stuff to do.
I have multiple
and
appointments."
I don't know why you want to sit in here on your own."
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, I'm not planning
I
on.
love it here.
I'm not planning on going to the national meetings. I don't think anymore. So we can always go and find a quiet tavern
Yeah.
where everyone else is at the national meetings, and we'll go sit down
Yeah.
and get ready and get into the flow of it.
Yeah,
if you'd
definitely.
like.
Being characterish, that's probably a good idea. Just
That's
have
the
some
thing,
time
yeah.
where you're just like warming up.
Because that's the thing. If we're in like a pretty much empty tavern, there's not people around. No one's going to mind if we slip out of character a bit.
Yeah,
and like half in
exactly.
character. And,
Exactly. Yeah, it's a bit more of a gentle transition then, isn't it?
yeah, exactly.
There is something I wanted to shout out. There is a Facebook group for the collective term is Spoonies, and people with disabilities who can kind of talk about their experiences with Empire and get assistance. I am just finding out the name of it now because somebody sent it to me. The group is called Spoonie and Disabled Empire LARPers. So it's a good place to go if you need to talk and get some advice and get some help. I'm directing you towards that. I am definitely probably not the best person to give advice, which is why I've kind of got these two here who provide more insights than I can. But
Do either of you, I mean, I know I do, have like any like key takeaway advice, just like a short thing like that summarizes like some advice that you would give someone?
I think I might actually give advice to neurotypical people
That makes sense.
Yeah.
As a
Because-
neurotypical person.
because I think that it is important. I think it's easy to forget how much easier it is for us than it is for a lot of other people.
Would you sorry, this doesn't have to be in the podcast, but would you classify someone with anxiety as being neurodiverse?
Yeah, I think so.
Does that count?
I'm pretty sure.
Oh.
Yeah. But I would definitely say people who are neurotypical, just try and bear that in mind. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with people because this space has a lot of people with who are neurodiverse. But take that into consideration when you see people that are maybe by themselves or being quiet in a group and you don't quite recognize them. It's something I want to do a bit more. Reach out, ask how they're doing,
Yeah.
give them a bit of game. The worst thing that's going to happen is that they're going to be annoying.
Be gentle, offer them games.
Annoying.
The worst thing that's going to happen is they're going to be annoying or a terrible person. Then what you do
Yeah.
is just go speak to some of the other 3,000 people that exist. But
Yeah.
but
That exists.
But 9 times.
Please don't worry about being annoying.
No. What I'm saying, but what I'm going to say is
Neurotypical
that was the
don't know
most
what to say to neurodiverse
that was the most
people.
fucking neurotypical thing I've ever said in my life. But what I'm saying
It
is,
could be really annoying, so just ignore them if they're really annoying.
well,
Yeah, give
well,
neurodiverse
to be fair,
people...
that is they might not be neurotypical. They might just be.
Sorry.
They might not be neurodiverse. They might just be quiet and then.
No. What you said is give
Terrible.
neurodiverse people a chance, but just one chance.
Yeah, just one chance. So you're on thin fucking ice. But no, what I'm kind of more saying is the worst thing that's going to happen is you're not going to like them.
Yeah.
Reach out, have a
exactly.
chat. 9 times out of 10, I mean, I haven't actually spoken to someone at Empire where I've gone, God, I wish I'd had that conversation.
Yeah, no,
I've just got
really like
visions
everyone
of
I've
you
met.
being like, "Oi, quiet person, you got 10 seconds, go."
Prove yourself to me. Otherwise, I'm going to fight you.
Yeah.
Why do I feel like that's the evolution of Tristan? That's what Tristan will become once he's
Yeah,
a vocal.
that's Tristan's idea of therapy.
Yeah.
Hey, quiet person, stand up, prove yourself. No, you're shit. Bugger off. Keeps moving
You're
on.
on thin fucking ice.
You're on,
Meanwhile,
you're
come
on
over to the
thin
boar's head and you
fucking
can have a
ice.
cheap drink.
But yes, I suppose rather than the thing I was trying to say is reach out to people. The worst thing that's going to happen is you're not going to like them and you can move on with your life.
Yeah.
But give people try and give people a bit of game, talk to them, and just kind of be more aware of the things that are going on. I know I'm bad for it. I try my hardest, but I know I'm bad for not realizing when people aren't feeling great.
Yeah, well, it's hard to get into that. Like, if you're not, if you don't have that similar mindset or that similar way of thinking, it's really hard to like zone in on that.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice?
Yeah, I will stick with the don't find too much pressure to get everything done. If things are overwhelming, you can always, as you say, go back to the tent or go off on a walk. I think try and find a group or a friend or someone. Like if you're going alone, or even if you like we went as a group, but we went to separate nations and we tried very much to do our own thing. I think even if it comes to looking for people who look new and lost and making friends with them, because sometimes one of those people will be an extrovert and then you will be carried with them into a group.
Yeah,
that is how I made all my friends at uni. I met one extrovert and now I have lots of friends from uni.
Or if you do what we did and adopt Jack, which was literally the best decision.
Otherwise known as
we've
Win,
made.
as we've referred to him in
the
the episode.
Jack has so much knowledge of Empire.
Yeah.
He was the best adoption we could have made.
Oh, great adoption.
Yeah, exactly.
Loved it.
Yeah.
We're proud adoptive
Proud
parents.
adoptive LARP parents, despite the fact he's been there longer and gave us more advice. But if we called ourselves adoptive parents, we put ourselves in a
It almost felt very forceful. It was like, you will pitch your tent next to us and you are not leaving us.
Yeah, we definitely didn't offer.
Yeah.
We're
We're
definitely not. You're definitely not babysitting us and helping us. We're helping you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We need you,
so, Jack, how does everything work? If you don't mind,
Yeah.
can you guide us, please?
me.
Help, please.
I suppose my takeaway advice is very similar to what Morgan and Kerry have said. Like, know your limits and stick to them. I think what's interesting about what Morgan's saying about being neurotypical, you might be listening to this podcast and think, well, I'm neurotypical. There's I don't have mental health problems. I don't have a disability. This episode isn't for me. It definitely is for you, and you need to make sure you're looking after yourself. And I think a lot of neurotypical people have this issue where they aren't used to having to take care of themselves
Who,
in
me?
the same way.
Yeah, who forgets to eat and drink?
So-
No, not me.
When Morgan goes off to LARPs, I literally pack him loads of food because I know he won't eat properly.
Yeah.
I tell him he has to get more sleep, and
This is why you make anxious friends, because they're so overthinking about their well-being. They're also
we
overthinking about
know.
your well-being.
We have to look
Look,
after ourselves.
look.
You
Yeah.
guys just forget.
Look, I've only cried after an event.
5 times.
Yeah.
Every time.
Once. It was the event I went to by myself where I didn't eat properly, drink properly, or sleep. I was crying because of in-character death. And you're like, bro, that was an intense emotion for fiction. And then I'm like, maybe I'm feeling like this because I have not looked after myself for 3 days.
Yeah, and you've said before as well that you have a lot of extreme highs and lows at LARPs.
The lows are becoming less.
Yeah.
It's less extreme lows. It's more sometimes I'll stand in the field and look around by myself and go, am I having fun?
Yeah,
Is this
I've
good?
had it before where I've been walking around, especially in, I think it was E3, and I felt like I was walking around alone, and I was just like, why am I here? What am I doing?
Yeah.
I'm getting bored, I'm getting tired, and then you get back in the swing of it. I think,
Well, you've got to remember, it's like 13 hours.
yeah,
time.
exactly. You can't be entertained for an entire weekend.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
every minute of it.
But I think that everyone kind of needs to be aware that you might feel some feelings or be, you might not rest very well, and you just got to be aware of that and try and look after yourself as best as possible.
Especially as people tend to drink quite late into the evening. And
Yeah.
the thing is, though, if our hangovers do not seem to affect you nearly as much when you're out in the fresh air camping.
Yeah.
I mean, I've noticed that.
No, I absolutely agree with
Oh,
you there.
really?
Like
I've never drank
I
enough
wake up
to-
feeling refreshed. Like,
Well-
not that I particularly get hungover anyway, because I'm still lucky
young
enough
and
to.
sprightly.
Well, that big
Yeah.
walk that we did after a night out on Saturday cleared me right up. I was fine.
I think fresh
Yeah.
air really is,
Go for a
the
walk.
It's the way
call.
forward. But that was kind of my key takeaway advice. Look after yourself, know your limits.
Look after yourself, make some friends. Don't be afraid to approach neurodiverse people because they might not be rude and boring.
Oh, I've got such a way with
And
words.
just
Yeah,
a disclaimer,
definitely.
don't be worried to approach Tristan in field because he will not tell you on Finn.
Oh no,
59s.
do be afraid to approach Tristan. He's a dick. Don't.
No.
No, I'm taking it.
And if you need any jobs doing
better be.
in the league, go to the Jolly Jackdaws.
We can't. Hang on. Draw the line at advertising Tom's
Shameless
freaking guild on
advertising.
the podcast. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for listening. Thanks for joining us, Emma.
Thank you. Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you. Thank you for coming.
And we'll see you next week for another exciting episode of Larps and Tarps.
Yeah, goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you very much for listening. If you want to keep in touch, don't forget to look for us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you'd like to support the podcast, you can find us on Patreon. Also, we're hoping to get nominated for a LARP award this year. So you head over to the link in our link tree. You can nominate us for LARP Media if you'd enjoyed our content and if you've learned anything. Thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you next week.